Okay, so welcome back. So now what we're going to do is we're going to map out the unit circle, and I got two unit circles here just so we could partition it out into two different, well, patterns, if you will, because if I put it all together, my artistic skill is not that great, so it'll look messy. But let's start with the fact that if we cut this unit circle, so again, we know that the x and y, right, we know the length of t at each one of these is going to be given by the angle, okay? So we're going to figure out what the x and y coordinates are for each one of these points. So we can start by partitioning this into 4 equal pieces. If we don't look at the x and y axis, we're basically rotating it a 45-degree angle, right? So we're going to cut this in half, this in half, this in half, and this half like a pizza. So we're going to have 8 equal pieces on this pie, if you will. And so each one of these arc lengths are going to be exactly the same. So when we do that, it corresponds to a 45-degree angle, or pi over 4. So from here to here, this is going to represent an angle of pi over 4. And then here we know that this is, well, let me write it out. So pi over 4. And again, this is review because we've seen this before. So pi over 4, and then this is pi over 2 because we're dealing with radians. And then, so pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and then 4 pi over 4, which is just pi. And then 5 pi over 4, and then 6 pi over 4, which is 3 pi over 2. And then 7 pi over 4. And then we get to 8 pi over 4, or 2 pi. Okay? And I'm writing this here as a reference, as this is going to be the reference angle going this way. Okay, so going counterclockwise. Okay? So now what we want to do is, for each one of these central angle measures, we want to write down the x and y coordinates for the point on the circle. So for this one, it turns out to be square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2. Okay? Now, notice that because this is symmetric, right, that this point, this point, this point, this point are all 45-degree angles. All of these angles themselves are 45 degrees. But it also forms a square, right? So if I go with symmetry, right, because this square is centered at the origin, so if I go from here to here, right, I'm flipping across the y-axis. So this is going to be corresponding to the point, what? It's going to be what? Negative square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2. And I'm writing too big. I'll write it up here. Okay? And then, of course, this point is going to be flipped across the x-axis, so this is going to be, and by the way, you could just use the fact that both coordinates are negative here, so we could just do negative square root of 2 over 2, comma, negative square root of 2 over 2 here, and then of course over here it's going to be what? It's going to be square root of 2 over 2, comma, negative square root of 2 over 2. And those are the points. So obviously we know the points of these, right? Those are easy. So now these are the coordinates for these 4 points. So now we've got 8 points that we know on the unit circle. Okay? And the corresponding angle. Okay, now let's go over to this one. Okay? Now this one is not, well, this one is equidistant, but what we're doing is we're dividing the pi into 12 equal pieces. Okay? So here we divided it into 8. Here we're going to divide it into 12 equal pieces. And so obviously if we take 360 divided by 12, we get 30. So each one of these segments represents a 30-degree angle. Okay? So let's, again in radians, let's write that out. So this is going to be this is going to be a 30-degree angle. Well, let me see here. 12 equal pieces. Yep, 12 equal pieces. Just want to make sure I get this right. Yeah. So now, notice what we have here. So this is going to be 30 degrees, which is pi over 6. Right? So this is going to be pi over 6. And this is going to be 2 pi over 6 or pi over 3. Okay. And this is going to be 3 pi over 6 or pi over 2 like we saw over there. Right, so we already know what that is. And then we get 3 pi over 6. This will be 4 pi over 6 or 2 pi over 3. And this will be 5 pi over 6. And then of course we get to 6 pi over 6 or just pi. And then we're going to get 7 pi over 6. And then 8 pi over 6, which is the same as 4 pi over 3. And then we get 9 pi over 6, which is the same as 3 pi over 2. And then we keep going, so 9 pi over 6, then we get 10 pi over 6, which is the same as 5 pi over 3. And then we get 11 pi over 6. And finally we get 12 pi over 6, which is the same as 2 pi. Okay? Now we want to write the corresponding x and y coordinates for each one of those points based on that central angle. Okay? So now we're going to get, let's start with the first one. So that's going to be the square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. Okay, now one way to look at this is think about this here. X equals y, right? This is the same. The 45-degree angle is the same as the x equals y, or the y equals x identity function that goes through the origin. And remember, these 2 points are mirror images across that line. So if you realize that, then to get from this point to this point, it's just the reciprocal. So it's the inverse. Okay, so if it's the inverse, so this point is the reflection across the y equals x, the identity line, then all we're going to do is flip the coordinates. So it'll be 1/2 comma square root of 3 over 2. And then of course, these 2 points are reflected across this, and these 2 points are reflected across the y-axis. So guess what? All we're going to do is make this goes to negative. So this point here is going to be negative 1/2 comma the square root of 3 over 2. And this one is going to be negative square, so basically the reciprocal, it's going to be the flip, right? So this is going to, this point here is going to be square root of 3 over 2 comma negative 1/2. And so if we keep doing this, these are reflected across the x-axis, and these are reflected across the x-axis. So that means the y variable is going to go negative. So, well, actually, they're in the third quadrant, so we know they're both negative anyway. So we can just say, hey, this is going to be, this point here is going to be negative square root of 3 over 2 comma negative 1/2. And this one is going to be, we're going to switch it, so it's going to be negative 1/2 comma negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay, and then similarly we're going to reflect it across here, so that means this is going to become 1/2 comma negative square root of 3 over 2, and then this one is going to become square root of 3 over 2. Hold on a second. Yeah, square root of 3 over 2 comma negative 1/2. And let me make sure I didn't make any mistakes here. Oh, hold on a second here, I did make a mistake. Oh, yep. Yeah, this should be negative. So this point here, yeah, is negative square root of 3 over 2. I don't know if I said it and wrote it wrong, but this point here is negative square root of 3 over 2, comma, positive 1/2 for the angle of 5 pi over 6. Okay. And did I do the other one correctly? Yes, I did. And okay, yeah. So all the ones I think are correct, I believe. I just double checked. Okay, so now if we were to take both of these circles and put them together as an overlay, we would have all of the most common angles that we're going to be dealing with and their corresponding XY coordinates. Okay? So this is the unit circle that you want to memorize. Okay? And this is one approach to it. If you memorize this unit circle, when we get to the trig functions, it'll make a lot of sense, and it'll be very easy to memorize the trigonometric functions and their corresponding values. Okay, that's it. Other than that, let's see. Oh, one other thing. Okay, I did mention that. No, I think that's it. Yeah, cool. Nope, I think that's it. Have a great day.